we hope that through this discussion, we can really bring the academic work onto the ground level and discuss in practice how this recommendation could be implemented and what the findings really mean for the people on the ground.
I'm arguing in the piece that any narrative which simply says violent and extremist masculinities are this one extreme version of manhood that goes too far, we end up creating an idea that gender is about psychological pathology, individualization of these thoughts within people's hearts, as opposed to reflecting social dynamics of patriarchy, militarism, power and oppression, which are prevalent in society.
Masculinity is generally not perceived as something to be scrutinized. In our societies, most of the time it is being celebrated. When a member of the family is part of a military security, it becomes a pride of the family.
Why is it that some very patriarchal communities have significant problems with militant groups and other groups which are deeply patriarchal don't?
The youthfulness and economic vulnerability of men may likely contribute to the dominance of militarized masculinity.
I think the myths that violent extremist groups put forward have an influence on wider society. They also change how those communities think about themselves. But it can also be a space for communities and NGOs and for civil society to raise up alternative, credible voices.
When we're looking at the production and reproduction of the propaganda, there is no fixed narrative. It is only target on a particular group. It is actually interchangeable. They know when actually the correct time they can use the narrative exactly to actually target a particular group.
So this chapter really asks the research question whether we can see increasing reports of sexual violence and different types of gender-based violence as lead indicators for terrorist or extremist violence. And what we find is that in that model, sexual and gender-based violence reports are a critical component explaining the occurrence of acts of terror.
I think those deep-rooted patriarchal values really do govern gender relations in this country. And if you see the militarization that's happened over the years in Sri Lanka, those values have kind of come home to settle in people's homes, in people's thinking, in people's values. And it's almost justification of that militarization in this country.